Big Z Reviews. House of the Dragon is HBO's newest attempt, and first attempt at, a prequel to Game of Thrones. And I did really enjoy it, despite hating the last seasons of Game of Thrones so much. It's interesting.
I consider the matter urgent. That of your succession.
Well, who else would have a claim?
The firstborn child.
Rhaenyra. No queen has ever sat the Iron Throne.
The king has an heir, Daemon Targaryen.
I will not be made to choose between my brother and my daughter.
So this takes place a couple hundred years before the events of Game of Thrones, like in the midst of the Targaryens' power. And I think I read and loved the Game of Thrones books. Like, I was pretty early on, and then so I've been waiting. I've waited so many years each time for the next book. But when he released the history of the Targaryens, like those books, I was not interested at all. Like, I read like the first couple chapters of one, I think, and it just read like a history book. It read like, the world building an author would do when they weren't writing the actual story, and it just really didn't interest me at all. So, like, I didn't, this show is like, it's interesting because each episode I would find myself so enveloped into the story and really enjoying it, because it's kind of like has the whole Game of Thrones style with like everyone's kind of fighting over the throne, because there's all sorts of different lineages going on, because like Paddy Considine as King Viserys the First, like he has like only one child, which is a girl, like and then his wife dies, the love of his life. Then he gets remarried and has a bunch of kids, and his daughter has a bunch of kids, and the other people have a bunch of kids, and it's just like, so like the lineage is in question. I'm sure it's going to end in a big civil war, essentially. But it's like, I think the toughest part about this show is that it's the time jumps. Because, like, between one episode and the next, you'll have, like, 20 years go by. And, like, these characters have lived a whole life. And it's, like, it's so tough to grab a hold of them and actually care about the characters. Like, at least it's the easiest for the characters that stay the same throughout the show. But a lot of them suck. Like Matt Smith as Prince Daemon Targaryen, King Viserys' brother. Like, he is the most interesting character of the show, but he's an asshole. And, like, but I mean, like, so many of the other characters, like, it's tough because at the start of the show, like, your Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, she's kind of like, it feels like she's going to be your entry character. But then, like, she's going to get married to a dude, a Valyrian who's gay, so they can't actually be in love. Like, and then the episode ends, and you get back, and this now, I really liked, Miley Alcock as Princess Rhaenyra. She's replaced by Emma D'Arcy as her, and like, it feels like a completely different character. But at the same time, why wouldn't it be? I mean, this is like 15, 20 years later or something like that. I mean, it might be at least a decade, but she has like 3 kids now. Like, she's lived a whole life, and it's tough. It's just tough. It's tough to care about them, And I mean, maybe, hopefully, I don't know if the time jumps will stop or if they'll keep going. Like, it makes it feel like there isn't really a story here. Like, this is all just background info for for the ancestors of the story you actually care about. Because, I mean, like, you're in the original Game of Thrones show, you're following these characters for like 8 seasons, and you care about them. You care about if they die. You care about what happens to him. But in this show, it's tough to care because you don't know them, and so many times they again the same character later on they have another time jump after she gets married to someone else, and then she has another 2 or 3 kids, and it's like, oh jeez. I mean, so much of the show is about giving birth, with characters die giving birth, and it's like they actually it's tough, but again the actual show, within each episode, I find myself enthralled and loving it. But then when it ends, it's I don't know. I feel like I watch week by week. I wonder if in the future, if you watch them if you binge watch the shows, how if it be more weird or less weird with how it jumps all over the place. I'm really not sure, but it's just tough. And I feel like too with Princess Rhaenyra, I feel like the 2 actresses they had to play her, I love Millie Alcock, but I didn't really like Emma D'Arcy that much. I think because maybe I liked the first one so much, but I feel like they didn't look like each other, they didn't act like each other. They're completely different characters. I just thought the 2 girls that played Queen Alicent Hightower, I thought they were both really good, and they seemed like they were continuous. They seemed like the same person. But I mean, again, I love seeing a big fantasy show on my TV, so I'm not going to complain too much about seeing it, even though I wish again that instead of giving a prequel of Game of Thrones, they would put money in a new fantasy story. But I mean, I know that you have the Game of Thrones name, and there's some interesting stories you could tell. It's just tough to care that much because it seems like it's all leading to a story that, according to the show, had a really shitty end, But I mean, I did enjoy the shows, so I give an 8 out of 10, 7.75 out of 10. It's interesting, but it definitely has its flaws. But thanks for watching. If you want to see more of me, you can subscribe down below. Thanks.